Hey everyone, it's Synth Designer back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about 3 iconic leads from the 90s. Now if you've seen my previous video on 3 iconic basses from the 90s, this is essentially kind of a bit of a follow-up to that, although I'm going to be doing some different songs. The best part is the sounds that you heard in the intro there, they're all going to be available on my new preset pack called 90s Dance. 90s Dance will have 30 unique presets available, all from the 90s, all 90s inspired, including some iconic sounds like the lately bass, the leads that you hear now, and lots more as well. It'll all be available on my website at synthdesigner.com, absolutely free. Now, if you want this preset pack right now, you can send me a donation at synthdesigner.com and I'll send it to you right away. Otherwise, you can just wait a little bit and you will get it absolutely free when it's available. There'll be more information in the near future about what's available on the pack, so stay tuned. You can also sign up on my website to get those updates. But for now, let's get into this video and how I created these sounds. So the thing about the 90s and electronic music is that there were no DAWs, right? Of course, DAWs came in the late 90s, but the point is they were using analog machines for these sounds. So these are going to be kind of like approximations. They're not going to be exact sounds, right? We're going to just kind of do our best to recreate them, and we're using Serum today on all of these. Serum has a lot of versatility for a lot of reasons, and if you've seen a lot of my previous videos, you'll know that I love using Serum just because of its versatility and just the things it can do. And you'll see in a couple of sounds how it really helps it out. In this situation, we're going to start with Move It here. So that kind of iconic lead that comes into play, I used 2 very simple wave shapes, and then we're going to talk about how I automated it essentially. And I was able to automate it all in Serum here and nothing else. So let's just listen quickly. So, as you can see here, we have a saw wave here and essentially a pulse. Both of them are just in the basic shapes. The thing about 90s analog synthesizers is oftentimes they had to rely on basic shapes. They didn't have all these crazy wave shapes that you could get now and just this kind of warping ability necessarily. They often just use the basic shapes and kind of tried to do their best with those, but they had a lot of rich harmonic content, which is sometimes missing in digital kind of synthesizers. So there's a trade-off there. But today I'm going to show you here that I have these 2 here, and I have this triangle as well on the sub. So this is kind of like a bass kind of lead, you could call it. It's really hard to describe what kind of makes a lead, what makes it a bass necessarily. It kind of acts as both, right? It really comes through on the low end, but also is kind of that harmonic lead that you'd hear in any other song. So we have these 3 wave shapes working together, all adding a kind of a different flair to it, right? Let's just listen to them one by one a little bit. That classic saw. Now that kind of pulse really adds kind of that middle ground, and then there's the triangle, just adding that distorted kind of sub information. And all 3 of them working together work really great. As you can see, 0 effects here. I have no effects. It's all just done by creating this nice sound. And it's super simple. But all of these work in kind of a harmony essentially to create that sound. As you can see, basic envelopes here, maybe just a tiny bit of release here. The second envelope, I don't believe I use it here. I don't. The main thing is, if we look at the LFOs here, I have them in 2 spots. So this second one we'll talk about quickly. This really is adding some detune here. As you can see, this fine knob is really moving quickly, and we really want a lot of detune. Both of them, I should say as well, there's 3 voices of unison, and they also have a lot of detune, just that kind of detune sound, which gives a nice stereo separation. And really, when you have kind of that bass that's acting both as a bass and a lead, you really need kind of something that's giving it space and giving it more than just kind of a mono sound. And that's what we're doing here with detuning here. By changing the detune, you're really changing the sound here. The other thing is that first LFO, and this is actually acting as the automation here. I have it on a super slow rate. I took it off of just the BPM feature because I wanted to control a little bit more, and I don't have it triggered at any point. It just keeps going essentially. And that's kind of the basis of the song. It kind of slowly opens as the song progresses and then slowly closes and opens back up. And that's the whole sound. The next song we're going to talk about is Around the World, La La La. And this one has that kind of great percussive bell-like sound. That's super kind of iconic lead. And it was also sampled by Ava Max not long ago. So it really is become of a kind of a modern hit as well. Now this is obviously an approximation. There's a couple of important parts here. So when you're using sine waves, you could really kind of get those nice bell sounds, right? But there's a gentle factor to that when you're using just plain old sine waves. You need a lot of kind of punch to it, and when you listen to the original track, it has that high end feature, and this is what I added here with this noise oscillator. So as you can see, I have all three here working together, and they're all different kind of levels here. But let's talk about this noise oscillator real quick first. Now it doesn't sound like much here, but that adds a lot of information here and a lot of transients. Now, when you want to get rhythmic type of sound, you need to add some transients to it. So let's just add that in. Let's add in these other oscillators and hear this noise oscillator. So you think it's really low in the mix, but really it's adding a ton, because let's take it out. And when you listen to the song, you really hear that upper kind of transient. And I believe it could be a xylophone or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how they made it. Maybe it's just through some sort of preset they created on their synthesizer. But you can really hear that kind of noise, and you need that transient. And I'm just using the Glass Lid 5 here. And as you can see, I have both the sub and the noise on a direct out because we have some effects here as well that we'll talk about in a moment. Just looking at it quickly, envelope 1 here has kind of that plucky kind of element to it, but envelope 2 is really where we're getting a lot of this information. So number 1, we have the levels on the 3 main oscillators, not the sub. The 3 main oscillators, that also adds a lot of that percussive element. By adding them all there, you're essentially making them really pop every single time you strike a key. And when it's attached to the filter as well, that does the same effect. I had it just barely closed. It essentially opens all the way. It's not a huge deal, especially when you're dealing with sine waves, since those are all very, they don't have a lot of harmonic content. However, you're also adding this glass lid, which does have some harmonic content. So it's kind of just adding that slight bit, but really opening it up, and that adds that pop to it as well. Then over here, we're going to talk about some of these effects here. As you can hear, it has that subtle reverb and delay. I didn't want to put too much of either just because I felt like it was enough. I have the compressor here on as well, and then I EQ'd out some of the lows, so it does take away some of the low from the sub. Otherwise, I felt like it was too much lows. Not a ton of difference, as you can hear. Then I added this distortion as well, and that really helps kind of add just a tiny bit of subtlety to it. All of these things really add up, because when you take these things out, it's really dry and it's not. You need just a little bit more harmonic content, I found. This is not an exact recreation and it's tough to get it exactly right, but I felt like I did a decent job here of recreating that sound. Now lastly we have We Like to Party by the Vengaboys, and this is just a fun song and a super simple one that I wanted to show you. Just because oftentimes we think of sound design as being a complicated thing, but realistically we can make nice sounds with very simple wave shapes, wave tables, and it's all about kind of writing the right melodies, the right kind of vibes. You don't have to make it super complicated, and this is a perfect example of that. So quickly here, let's just listen into this first section. So I have just this basic saw here. That's all it is. We don't need to go further than that. We're just opening slowly with this filter. The main sound here is pattern 4. Let's listen to that. So this is a super simple sound. It just has a unfiltered saw and triangle, and then we have some compression and reverb and cutting out some lows. There's no real movement here. As you can hear, there is one octave higher than the other octave is lower. The compression really does a lot. As you can see here, it's probably cutting out 5-6 dB maybe, and without the compression, it's really not adding a ton. It just kind of gives us that a little bit of a squasher sound, right? More squash sound, I should say. Just some subtle reverb, and again, cutting out some of those lows. This is just a perfect example I wanted to show you that you don't have to make complicated sounds to make them good. It's just a really catchy melody, a fun one from the 90s if you remember it, and something simple that I included in the preset pack as well, just for fun. So I hope you enjoyed learning about some of these sounds from the 90s and recreated them on Serum. Now remember, these presets will be part of my 90s dance preset pack, which will feature 30 presets absolutely free at synthdesigner.com. Remember, if you want these now, you could go to synthdesigner.com, send me a donation of any amount, and I will send you this preset pack today. Otherwise, you might have to wait a few weeks, maybe a couple months, and you will be able to get it for free at synthdesigner.com. There'll be more information in the near future, so look out for that on my socials and on my YouTube page. I really hope you liked this video, and I'll see you all next time.